Yeah, that's right. She was also a teacher. So, welcome to Yvonne Clark and her engineering spark, discovering your own spark. My name is Alan Wells, and I am a mechanical engineer and children's book author. Many, many years ago, Yvonne Clark was my professor at Tennessee State University. And as a mechanical engineering professor, she taught me many things. She taught me about statics and dynamics. She taught me about math, adding and subtracting and equations. And she taught me how to be a dedicated engineer in my profession.
And my name is Deandra Hodge, and I'm a children's book illustrator. And that means that I illustrated the pictures in the book. Let me get ready to read that to you right now.
Yvonne Clark was a trailblazing engineer and a woman of many firsts. She was a barrier breaker, and she was dedicated to engineering. But before all of that, Yvonne was a kid just like you. She enjoyed building and fixing things, and she enjoyed thinking about her future. So let's read Yvonne Clark and her engineering spark, written by me, Alan R. Wells, and illustrated by
Deandra Hodge.
Yvonne Clark and her engineering spark. Spark.
Good job.
Sport.
Many people believe that superheroes leap tall buildings or hail from galaxies far, far away. They almost never tell you that superheroes can exist right in your neighborhood.
This was the case in the 1930s when Yvonne discovered her own superpower, a remarkable spark for building and fixing things. She had an engineering spark.
Down in Louisville, Kentucky, where the bluegrass grows, nestled a row of narrow brick homes. Inside one of them, Yvonne lived with her mom, dad, and younger brother.
Many people believed girls should wear dresses and play with dolls, but Yvonne didn't care what people thought. Dressed in her dungarees, Yvonne built bold, boundless bridges across her bedroom floor. She tackled tall, tantalizing towers that tilted towards the ceiling. Yvonne had an instinct for figuring out how things worked.
And why they didn't. Bzz, berserk, glitch. The toaster mysteriously stopped working again. Last time it happened, Yvonne's granddad had fixed it.
If he fixed it once, Yvonne thought, maybe I can fix it for good. So up, out, and away it went, into Yvonne's bedroom. Could she solve this problem? What do you guys think?
Yvonne examined each piece closely as she took the toaster apart. Her mind lit up and sparked like an electrical current. Yvonne saw that one piece in the toaster was bent. It needed a new catch spring. Grabbing her pliers and the thickest paper clip she could find,
She twisted, she curled, She coiled. Did she find the solution?
Yes!
Let's see. We'll find out.
Yvonne plugged in the toaster, added a slice of bread, and waited. No spring, no flip, no chunk.
Yvonne wouldn't be defeated. She took apart every cover, removed every spring, and unscrewed every hinge. Then she put it all back together, over and over again, until...
What do you think's gonna happen? You said she didn't fix it?
Well, I'm literally just joking, but
Flip. At breakfast the next day, Yvonne smiled as she ate her warm brown toast. From then on, there was nothing Yvonne couldn't fix with her problem-solving powers.
Broken lamp, she screwed, rewired, and wrenched until light. Wrecked radio, she twisted, snipped, and hammered until music. Clogged furnace, she picked, plucked, and cleared until heat.
Yvonne's curiosity was kindled. At school, she borrowed library books on engines and airplanes. How many of my friends down here love engines and airplanes?
All right.
Oh, we're gonna have a couple of engineers, I see. Okay. She learned about numbers. What about numbers? Do you all like numbers?
yeah, I love numbers. Like numbers are so good.
Yeah, that's awesome.
She discovered.
I also like
Ooh, now that's tough. That's a tough one too.
It's real hard to do.
She discovered formulas and she solved equations. Because she was a girl, Yvonne wasn't allowed to take certain classes, but that didn't stop her from learning.
In college, Yvonne fueled her engineering spark at Howard University in Washington, D.C. And when she graduated, Yvonne wielded her diploma as the ticket to her next heroic journey.
Who knows where Howard University is? Where is it at?
Maryland.
Almost. My friend right here in the red, what's your name? Repeat it for me. All right, Ahago. Where is Howard University?
DC.
Good job. All right. I got some smart friends. All my friends smart. Many people believe that a woman should stay at home and take care of her family. But Yvonne didn't care what people thought. Why can't I do both? Yvonne searched and searched until she found her first engineering job at the Frankfurt Arsenal Gauge Lab. A weapon jam. The all-male team was stumped. Nothing they tried worked. This looked like a job for
Yvonne Clark and her engineering.
Good job.
Yvonne Clark and her engineering spark. Could she solve the problem?
Yeah. Because she always solved the problem. She never gave up. And like,
That's right. She never gave up. That's absolutely right.
Yvonne's mind sparked, then brilliant ideas fired with a pow and a bang. She increased the diagram of the recoilless rifle to 4 times its original size. She examined the cannon closely. She looked at every section and saw how each piece fit together. She studied all its parts, from the largest barrel assembly to the smallest springs and screws. Yvonne noticed that 2 metal pieces inside were designed to be too close together. When the metal pieces expanded, the rifle locked up instead of firing. Yvonne and her co-workers fixed the design. They tested the rebuilt weapon and think happens?
It burns with her spark.
See?
Bang! Yvonne had done it again. Yvonne Clark's engineering, right, propelled her to the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA, in Huntsville, Alabama. You have a question?
That's a cannon?
Mm-hmm. So back when you,
Telescope?
oh no, it's a cannon.
That would look like a cannon if I thought I was wrong.
Well, you were almost right, almost. It's in, well, yeah. The shape is in the same family.
In 1962, NASA was determined to send humans to the moon aboard a Saturn V rocket ship. The following year, Yvonne was hired to research space exploration. Her job? To solve problems. And the Saturn V rocket had a serious problem: hot spots, or areas of extremely high temperatures in the F1 engine.
Yvonne's mind sparked, then burst like the flames of an exhaust plume. She inspected every equation, formula, and design. She called the team that was running the Saturn V rocket test at the NASA Center in Florida. Yvonne questioned the engineers until she got the answer to her problem. Thermocouples, Yvonne shouted. The issue wasn't in the rocket. Yvonne discovered that the Saturn V F1 engine's sensors were absorbing heat from the ignition. So the sensors were always measuring hot temperatures. Yvonne suggested putting covers on the wires to protect them from the heat. Did she solve this problem?
Yes, she did.
So if she solved the problem, what do you think is going to happen?
It's gonna go break the house.
If it's a rocket, what do rock?
Oh,
It's gonna go somewhere.
like
It's gonna go-
space.
What?
It's gonna go in space.
Let's see.
In the fall of 1967, the first unmanned Saturn V rocket rolled out to its seaside launch pad for the Apollo 4 mission. Engines roared, crowds cheered. 3,
3, 2, 1.
Blast off.
Liftoff. The world gasped at the superpowers driving the rocket, unaware that they came in part from
From who?
Yvonne and NASA.
That's right, Yvonne Clark and her engineering spark. The end. So now I'm gonna turn it over to my young friends to see if y'all have any questions.
If you have a question, could you please raise your hand? What's your name, sweetie?
I'm Amara,
Hi, Mara. What's your question?
and my question is, I learned about what's your name again? Yvonne Clark, and I like that she built her own space. Her
Space Wrong rocket.
own rocket
Yeah,
ship.
that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, she was a very amazing woman. You have a question for us, Hazel?
Yes. How does Yvonne Did it take more than just her to build that rocket ship?
Oh, did it take more than her to build the rocket ship? Yeah, so it actually takes a team of other engineers. So she works with an all-male engineering team. So just like in school, when you work with a team on a project, it's similar to that. You have a question? Oh. Does anyone in the back have a question?
Cruz, did you have a question?
Yeah.
You do? What's your question?
But that was a giant rocket, or like they were gonna put in the sky the rocket ship. Because the rocket, I don't know why they need it, or the guy putting the rocket ship. I don't know.
You said where? You said they connected the rocket together. So at NASA, they build the rocket in compartments, in small parts, and then they combine it all together on a stand.
Is that because she's a scientist too?
Yeah, so she was a scientist and an engineer.
Kind of sounds like science.
Yeah, so engineering actually includes math and science. So if you're really good at math and science, you could probably become, well, you're more than likely going to be an engineer.
Does anyone else have a question? How about anybody in the back?
You gotta be able to. Come on.
I'll ask one. Really enjoyed it. My question is about, I was thinking about all the other stories that were probably there that you could have told. Were there some, especially since you have intimate knowledge, her being your professor, that in writing this were left out, or that you were like, oh, I wish I could have told this story too, but it deviated from the storyline?
You mean as far as Yvonne Clark's story, or?
Yeah, things you knew about her,
Oh,
or
yeah.
that were impactful about her work.
Yeah, absolutely. So when, like in the beginning stages when I was drafting it, I actually the story was like 2,000 words, and I was trying to include every single detail in the story. But I had to realize that I needed to focus on one aspect of her life, and really an aspect that kids would relate to. And so I know a lot of kids are interested in NASA, interested in rockets. So I felt like that was the strongest story to tell from Yvonne's many accomplishments.
Is she still alive?
No, unfortunately, she passed away in 2019. Actually, January 27th, 2019. Yeah. But she taught until like well into her 80s.
So do you have more book events planned? Like, we got to be here today, but if we wanted to tell other people about future events, like in the coming months, do you have anything planned that we can pass on?
Yeah, well, actually, we have, well, that one's actually a school visit, but then we actually have an event in Huntsville at the NASA Rockets Space Center.
But right now in DC, there's nothing else planned?
Not right now in DC, yeah.
But if you leave your contact info, and we'll definitely let you all know.
Yeah, when we set
more
up, yeah.
programming is happening, so we can have a sign.
Oh, what's your question?
I'd love to hear about your process working together, like how you came up, what you wanted to show in the illustrations, and maybe what the approach to that between the two of you.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Sure. So, believe it or not, the author and the illustrator don't really work very closely together during the process. Usually what happens is, Alan, for example, he wrote the manuscript and went through rounds of edits and revisions, and he sent it into the publisher, and it got approved. And then you received a list of illustrators that you could work with, and I was one of them, and he wanted to ask me to, through the publisher and the editor, asked me to join the project, and I saw this story about this amazing woman, and I have a little bit of a personal connection to the story. She worked at the Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville, Alabama, where I was raised for a majority of my life. So as soon as I saw the Saturn V, I'm like, I'm right there. So I jumped on the project, and a lot of the deciding what to illustrate is just like a process of what is going to further enhance the written word that is already so stellar, and just wanting to really visualize for the reader, for the kids, like what a spark is and everything. When I was reading the manuscript, I interpreted that as a passion, and so I wanted to try to figure out, okay, how do I visualize that? And so if you see a lot of these like little stars and everything, that was sort of like my visual motif to sort of showcase like, okay, this is what it feels like when you're really engrossed in something you're very passionate about, and also having that kind of mimic sort of like this idea of like a synapses firing or like a engine firing, and further connecting it to the rest of the story. So that's a lot of where my my thought process is going into when I was illustrating the book and everything. So thank you so much for your question.
Question. So, what advice would you have for the young people who might want to become engineers? And what do you anticipate engineering jobs or the possible projects? What do you anticipate they may look like in the future? And I'm going to pause right here for a moment. I know that Yvonne, she was born like 1929, right? So she grew up in an era prior to well-developed technology. So I would imagine she had, she worked with what she had to create. And our school children have so much access to like everything being done for them. How do we continue to get them to just use what they have to be creative? And like, what do you recommend we do to help them to become engineers if that's what they choose?
Yeah, so I would definitely recommend continuing to get them involved in like those STEM programs, and even for kids that are like at a high school level, it's always important to get them involved in internships like as soon as possible. And again, back to the younger kids, continuing to introduce them to the different STEM programs that are STEM programs and opportunities that are available to them throughout the community. Because I know even like before I lived here, I lived in Atlanta, and there was this program. It was a Future City program, and it kind of gave kids the opportunity to create their own what the future would look like. So I feel like one of those types of programs, especially if it was implemented here in DC, that would give kids the opportunity to sort of brainstorm what the future would like, what a future world would look like, and how they would be able to impact that future world. Did you have another question, or was that the?
No, that was pretty much it. I think the nerdy side of me is I'm also wondering like what projects can we anticipate for the future? Like I'm thinking about their future and what engineering could look like. I wanted to know from an engineer's perspective.
So for me, like I'm an architectural engineer with a focus on like mechanical system designs. So it's more of my background is in building design. So I feel like as far like in the building industry, it's pretty much been the same for like the past couple of decades. And the only thing that's really changed is the type of software that we're using. Like we don't draw by hand anymore. We draw with computers. So I feel like a lot of kids now, they're very tech savvy, and I feel like that would be a perfect opportunity for them because they're used to using computers and technology to create and build systems. And so with that, in that regard, I feel like that puts them at an advantage because they'll be able to easily navigate those systems that we are using. And those systems, again, they haven't changed in 40 years. And the only advancements in them is like the quality of the software that we're using.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any more questions?
Any other questions here?
How long have you been illustrating?
Professionally, I've been illustrating for about 3 or 4 years. But I've been, since I was these kids' age, I've been drawing like it was breathing for like my entire life. And so I feel like it's kind of murky, like when did it exactly like start? But like I started illustrating professionally in 2021, and this is I think my 10th published children's book. Or so yeah, this is. Woo! Thank you so much.
Did anyone have any other questions? Well, we have a special gift for all of our friends here today. You get a copy of Yvonne Clark and her engineering spark. How does that sound?
Extra special by making sure to sign them for you.
Yay!
Question?
I want to say that thanks to everybody who learned about what's her name again?
Yvonne Clark.
Yvonne Clark. And I want to say that she's a great scientist.
It's a great scientist. You're so right, Amara. Thank you so much. Go ahead and give these out to y'all.
Sure.
Can you pass that to my friend right there?
Got it.
Go see.
That's pretty cool. That's nice.
Oh, you're welcome.
I want to say that thanks to all who everybody knows about Yvonne Clark. Thank you everybody and thanks for coming.
Let's give it up for Amara.
Thank you for everybody to learn.
That's right. I wanted to show you
If you want to